Heidi ho! Friday, August 4th. Look, it's only been 3 days since I went into the garden and you saw me harvest on August 1st. And look at everything I've got. This is a whole bucket of beans. I'm honestly so amazed. We got a lot more tomatoes. I picked a bunch of herbs today because I plan on doing some fun things, but this is all basil. This is a bunch of chives. I've got parsley and sage over here. And then I have a lot of calendula flowers. I've been growing calendula because we use it to make our own lotion. Look how pretty this one is. This is called a strawberry calendula. Isn't that gorgeous? And then the rest of them are kind of the standard ones. This one is called a double calendula because it's got double the petals here. So pretty. So I harvested a bunch of that as well. There's some banana peppers, and even though I processed all of the cucumbers that we had yesterday, we got 4 more. They just keep coming. So a lot to process. I'm gonna be very honest, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed today because I've got all of those peaches that are not yet ready, but they are gonna, of course, all be ready at once within the next day or two. I've got all of the herbs here that really need to be processed first. I have so many gallons of tomatoes in the freezer that I actually need to get processed soon too. I've got 3 more gallons of milk that I have got to do something with this weekend. So feeling a little overwhelmed. And still all that squash right there from 3 days ago I haven't even gotten to yet. So I say that because this is a very normal feeling, whether it be the garden or anything else that's overwhelming you, and it's okay. We'll get through this. We'll take a deep breath and we'll get through this. So first thing I'm going to do is actually wash all of the herbs and the beans. So as I'm washing the herbs, I'm just kind of reminding myself and use this time to remind you, one thing at a time. Even in those days where we get really overwhelmed, and it can be overwhelmed with good things. Like, don't take any of my overwhelm as like ungrateful, right? So thankful. I'm actually so surprised I got another almost full gallon of beans again. So excited about that. So it's okay to be overwhelmed and still be thankful. Just take one thing at a time. So the beans are washed. My basil is washed. I'm just going to finish up with these herbs. The basil, I'm planning on making a pesto. And I also pulled some lemon balm. So my goal is to actually make pesto. I'm just trying to separate this all here because I kind of lumped it all together in the bag when I came home. But my goal is to actually make a few different varieties of pesto. Number one, just kind of standard, regular Italian pesto, but I also want to do one with a version of mint and one with a version of lemon balm to make a little bit different flavors. So that's why I picked those. When you're working with fresh herbs like this, they can be washed and stored in the fridge for a couple of days, but I would not really go further than that. So I'm going to try to get this pesto made maybe tomorrow. But when you're doing that, right, kind of keep the bag open, let some airflow happen, but we still have some moisture in here to keep them fresh. But you don't want to store your herbs freshly picked for too long. So the parsley, chives, and sage, they're all going to be freeze-dried along with the calendula. I've got my freeze dryer, my harvest dry freeze dryer trays here. This is some feverfew that I harvested a couple of days ago before the challenge began, and I've just had them in the freezer on the tray. So I'm just adding the calendula to it, and so I'm going to add the parsley, chives, and sage to these 2 trays, and they're gonna go in the freezer to get pre-frozen. And normally I would be running, can you see it right there, the freeze dryer today, but I actually have not been able to run my freeze dryer for 3 weeks. And I'll keep you updated, but it just stopped pulling a strong enough vacuum to vacuum out the moisture. And so when that happens, the machine just doesn't work properly. And so I have contacted Harvest Right Tech Support. I've been working on them. We've been doing some troubleshooting, trying different methods. I've got to do something else now tomorrow where I do some more sealing, like silicone sealing, just to make sure there's no leaks within some of the hoses. So until I get that fixed, I'm just getting my trays in the freezer. So once it's fixed, they are ready to go and be freeze dried. I really prefer to freeze dry the herbs. Dehydrating works great. Drying them, just hanging them upside down and drying them in your kitchen or wherever is best for you, works wonderfully too. Don't think you need a freeze dryer, but if you want one, feel free to check out the link below. But that's gonna be my choice for this year, is freeze drying these herbs along with the calendula and the other things I've got ready to go. So let me get these herbs on the trays. Okay, these are bay leaves. We've got a bay tree in our backyard, and I had put these on here a few days ago. I'm just gonna add my sage. This is rosemary from our front yard. We've got a pretty big rosemary shrub. So I'm gonna add my chives here. Now normally I've done chives before and I chopped them up. I am not actually chopping them this time because once they're freeze dried, they're gonna crumble pretty well. So I'm just gonna leave them like this for now. Okay, another bag for the freezer. Now that the garden harvest is fully put away, it's time to get something put up for today. So I have some jars here. This is applesauce from July of 2021, pear sauce from July of 2021, and peach butter from August of last year, 2022. And then this is what we're gonna do with it. We're not a big applesauce, pear sauce, even like an apple butter kind of family, or peach butter. But I like to make these because then I use them to make fruit roll-ups. So my kids are back in school. I'm not big on buying snacks, so I really like to make as much as I can. And this is what I have found the best use for our family for these sauces. So we're gonna get these out on our dehydrator trays and we're gonna make some fruit roll-ups. And while we're at it, I'm gonna get the elderberries out of the freezer that we put in the other day, and I got more today. Hopefully they're frozen enough, and we're gonna get the elderberries dehydrated also. This process is so easy, so simple, and can be done in one day. So the key with making fruit leather is to make sure it is as evenly distributed as possible. And I have a very scientific way in which I do it. That's it. I told you it was scientific. And then I'll just kind of look at it, make sure it looks pretty good, and put it in the dehydrator. What I love about this project is that it gives me a lot of wins with very little effort, right? The effort was when I made these sauces a year, 2 years ago. That's where the real effort was. Today's effort is very minimal, just spreading it out, turning the dehydrator on, and it's giving me more space in my pantry by pulling these 3 jars out so they can be used for something else more useful for this year. And it's giving me some ready-made quick snacks for the kids for school for next week. Now for the elderberries. So these are the elderberries that we picked together 3 days ago, August 1st, and they are frozen. And so all I'm gonna do, because the berries are gonna start coming off the stems super easy, I'm just gonna hold them by these thicker stems and shake. And kind of put my hand in there and start kind of getting the berries off. It's a lot harder to do when the berries are fresh. And plus you just want to keep them with their, antioxidant healthful properties as fresh as you can. So by freezing them and then doing this before they go in the dehydrator, I have found that works the best. You want to be very careful when you're working with elderberries. They don't harm you just by touching them like this, but if ingested raw, they can cause some stomach problems. So that is why when you make elderberry syrup, you're always boiling the berries, not just to get all of those healthful properties out, but because that's the safe way to do it, the safest way to consume them. So just be careful, right, with animals around if you drop any on the ground, or children that, maybe too young to fully understand. This bag's going back in the freezer. Not quite ready. So now that we have 1 bag of berries, here's my trick with the dehydrator and the sheets. These berries are going to roll everywhere, and they will roll all over your floor and stain and do all kinds of things you don't want them to do, and go places you don't want them to go. So I have found that with my Teflax or non-stick sheets for my dehydrator, I just get 4 chopsticks and I kind of create a box on the sheet and then put the berries in the box, and it helps keep them from rolling around. I'm setting my dehydrator at around 135 degrees. The elderberries are going to go all night long. They'll even take a lot longer. The fruit roll-ups or the fruit leather, I'm going to go about 3 to 4 hours, check them, and they'll be tacky, but they should easily come up from the non-stick sheet, and then I flip them and go back in for a couple more hours. The dehydrator is still going. I just checked it. It's still very much wet, the fruit leather. So I'm gonna let that go a little bit longer. And I mentioned I had 3 gallons of milk in the refrigerator in the garage that I needed to process too. So I've got 2 gallons here on the stove, and I am doing a traditional mozzarella recipe, page 96 on the home cheese making book. This is my first time actually doing this recipe, so I'm not really filming the process right now. I've done the 30-minute mozzarella, but this is the traditional longer version. It takes longer to make, but it's supposed to create more flavorful cheese. And I can store it in a saturated brine, which is like a salt water, for several months, it says. So that's how I'm preserving these 2 gallons now. I'll show all of this to you tomorrow. I may have to show you the fruit leather tomorrow as well, because I have got to get dinner going and the end of the day is almost here, and I need to get this video edited and uploaded so you can see it. So today we made fruit leather, we dehydrated elderberries, and we got mozzarella. So I will update you tomorrow on the mozzarella and the fruit leather. I'll see you tomorrow. Stay healthy, stay well. Bye-bye.